It's Friday. This is Let's Talk Broncos. That's Joey Richards. I'm Brew Maestas. We're back. I don't know how to feel. Joey, earlier today, I was checking the weather report for Sunday and I saw that it was going to be 76 degrees. And I was so excited. I've had season tickets for a long time now. And
Yeah.
for the first time in a long while, I have actually now been debating whether or not I would go to a mid 70-degree Sunday football game in the state of Colorado. And the fact that that crossed my mind lets me know that, something's not right with my attachment to this team.
Yeah.
I would consider myself straight detached. I know that benefits my friends because they're all looking at me saying who's going to get the tickets for Sunday. I haven't decided. So LTB viewers and community, if you want to get in on this conversation and tell me what you would do in my situation, please feel free to do so. We're live over on YouTube. So if you search for us, Let's Talk Broncos, you can yell at me and tell me I'm not a real fan. Because listen, I pay a lot of money to watch this team, and I have for almost a decade. I don't know if I'm just apathetic right now. It's not that I'm not a fan. I'm never going to stop being a fan of the Denver Broncos. I just don't really know if I want to spend my Sunday at Mile High, which is a terrible thing to say. I love walking in those doors. I love being in the crowd, and I don't like people, but I love being at football games. And so I'm just struggling today. Maybe some mindset thing. Maybe I need to get my shit straight. But Joey, how are you feeling just presently as a Broncos fan?
Well, I mean, right now I feel numb, Brie, if I'm going to be quite frank with everybody. To the Broncos, it's numb. I'm looking forward to this offseason. Everyone knows that about me. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to at this moment. As far as those tickets go, Brie, you're kind of screwing yourself over letting the audience know, because now you're going to have 1,000 people asking you for the tickets when I know your ass was planning on selling those on Ticketmaster. so great job digging yourself in a hole there.
I have never sold a pair of my season tickets before. And so I don't know if I could bring myself to do it, especially because I think some green and gold wearing mofo is going to show up and be sitting in my seats, and everyone's going to look at me the next Sunday and give me a judgy glare. I'm not up for that. Alex does YouTube says one thing that can never be questioned is a Broncos fan dedication. You've been through a lot. Take a Sunday off. Sir, thank you for just understanding my plight. I am interested, though, because you did say you're a Broncos hater. I'm a Broncos hater, and even I want the Broncos to be better. So don't feel like I'm picking on the weak and feeble. Listen, you're coming in hot here in the chat. Alex says YouTube's been hopping on. I don't know if you got our notifications on or not, but we appreciate you being here. But who are you a fan of? And how did you get here? Dante said, if I dress up like George Payton for Halloween, will that be scary enough? We're a week removed. Kansas City is the Halloween game. I'm trying to consider what would be the scariest Broncos related Halloween costume I could think of. Maybe we'll include that in our bold predictions for next week's game. So Joey,
I
get
got
your
one.
It's Nathaniel Hackett or it's Drew Luck. I don't know which way you're going with this.
I could just be not there, be Juwan James. I could be a ghost.
All right.
I think that's the Halloween costume. That's definitely the scariest one right there. Juwan James holding a big wad of money. That's the scariest Halloween costume I can think of.
I don't blame him. Get your money and go, man. The NFL not for long league.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate the hustle. Paul came in really hot, and I highlighted this comment when we started. I got distracted. That's usual for me. But $10 right off the bat. Paul, you don't know how much that means to us because I don't know, you're kind of like the 1 millionth viewer sort of donation here for us. So we really appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for donating. You really don't have to do that. You can stop now. Your refund check is in the mail, but we appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in all the time and being a loyal member of our Broncos country listeners here on Let's Talk Broncos. I see Carter's in the chat as well. Samuel Castro, I was wondering, I was getting a little worried there. I didn't see you yet. And of course, Sniper's in the chat as well. Sniper recently joined our Discord channel. So if you want to get on that, You got to do it. We'll get you a link if you message us on any of our social medias. We'll go ahead and shoot you a link for the Discord. We got a lot of the LTB community, and they're just constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. And I've distracted for way too long. Paul said I'm tanking. Paul, yeah, to some extent, I may be tanking. Not on my season tickets, though. Those are very valuable property, and I would like to keep them for the foreseeable future. I want to also admit that I, for whatever reason this morning, thought that it was Kansas City week. That's how lost I am in the sauce. But I did come around. The boys thankfully didn't make fun of me too much when I tried to drop a prediction for Chiefs versus Broncos part 2. But we will be talking about the Green Bay Packers coming to Denver. And Joey, my first question to you was, how does the Packers defense stand up against the Broncos? And we've kind of determined that it's a lot of inconsistency. Good or bad news for Broncos country?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's better than weeks in the past. I mean, the Jets are a really tough matchup. The Chiefs so far this year are a really good defense. So I'm hoping that this kind of levels the Broncos back out. One thing that I do want to see, Bree, I'm big on, hey, the Broncos should probably be looking for the earliest draft pick available. I'm not rooting for them to win right now because they're not going anywhere this year. So you might as well lose and get the earlier picks. Try to improve the team for next year. With that being said, I'd rather lose with the offense being good. That's something I've determined. The last 2 weeks have been miserable. At least I had something to stand on during the other weeks where it was like, well, the offense does look better. Yes, it's terrible defense, and we embrace that, though. That is what it is. We can't change that. But if the offense and defense are both mid, like, come on, we can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. At least give me some excitement. I want to see the young guys ball out.
I think it's a great opportunity to do so. Sean Payton today said he looks at the stat sheet and all he can think of is that Marvin Mims needs more snaps. Yeah, I think that that's pretty apparent. One of the younger players on this team definitely needs an opportunity, and against this Packers defense could be a really good chance for him to utilize some mismatchups, if you will. Could you potentially, well, let's just say logically, you would expect to see Marvin Mims play more this Sunday. Do you or don't you think that happens?
I don't think it happens this week. I think it happens the week after this, Brie. I think going into the bye trade deadline, this week you're going to see who remembers, raise your hand in the chat, if you remember this preseason when Albert Ho went out there and had a monster last game of the preseason. Turns out it was pretty much the Broncos were feeding him to try to get him traded, try to increase his trade value. Guess what I think is going to happen? We're due for one of those. We are definitely due for one of those. I think Jerry Jeudy gets a lot of touches. I think Courtland Sutton gets a lot of touches. These guys that need their trade value to be increased, you want to showcase them to other teams. This is a perfect chance to do it right here. So I don't know if Marvin Mims is going to be a massive part. I think it'll be similar to every other week where he could have a massive play, but will he get the most snaps at wide receiver? Probably not. I think it's more important right now to get as much as you can out of Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton.
I think I can't disagree there. I was reading Paul message here that I'm afraid a win will make the front office go, it's not totally broken. I don't think that that's a rational fear for me right now. When you go 1-7 and they go 2-7, I don't necessarily think you look at it and go, we fixed it, y'all. So I don't think that's what would potentially happen. But Joey, is there any concerns about heading in the right direction as the Broncos organization and team stands right now? Or will you have a different approach to it when the trade deadline passes? So as November 1st is just around the corner, a lot of moves that the Denver Broncos made, and they're rumored right now to be top sellers in the league, with a predicted maybe 2 to a handful of trade candidates available. Obviously, just rumors. We don't know exactly who's being moved, but we have a good idea who could potentially be moved. Would you think the sight set on the second half of the season changes any, given the next couple of weeks and how they turn out?
I don't think it changes that much in the next couple weeks, Bree, but one thing I will say is let's say what to that point, who made that comment? I think it was Paul. Paul
Yeah.
made that comment. Depends where you land on the Russell Wilson discussion, right? There is a scenario in my brain where he does look really good and the Broncos are still afraid to move off of him through the rest of the year. If you saw the first 3 weeks of play from Russell Wilson and carried that on through an entire season, Sean Payton's at an age and he wants to win immediately, where I would be kind of afraid of like, hey, are they going to keep him around if you do fall on that side of the fence? Now, if you fall on the other side of the fence where you want to keep Russell Wilson, you're hoping for him to ball out every single game, because that is a possibility. It's just these last 2 weeks. The Broncos offense hasn't looked good. And what has been the main difference? They played terrible defenses at the beginning, and now they're playing good defenses for the time right now. So I don't know. I guess that would be the big change that I'd be worried about, where it's like, yeah, if Russell Wilson played like that those first 3 games for the rest of the season, I could see the Broncos keeping him, and that would scare me a little bit.
Oh my God. Now that's the scariest Halloween costume I could think of. Frankie's film in the chat, win or lose, just don't play ugly. How about also don't play lazy? If you want to check out what Frankie highlights week in and week out for Let's Talk Broncos, you can go on over to our YouTube. You're on it right now, so you might as well click on over to the Frankie's Film Gold Star reviews and check out what he's seen from different players here on the Broncos team. Frankie will be continuing that series, and you'll want to subscribe so that you can check his workout. Big fan of it. Appreciate you always being in the chat, Frankie. You don't got to do that. You still get a paycheck either way. Let's talk about the injury report for the Broncos Packers. Listen, it's not as bad as it's been, but it's not good. Greg Dulcich is out. Looks like he's probably heading to the injured reserve. That's not shocking news, but it is really detrimental to his ability to kind of learn to play in the NFL speed. Because that's been truncated, Joey, my worries are starting to go up for Greg Dulcich, and I was one of the very first to be on that train. So to even hear hesitation out of my voice is probably a little bit concerning for the Dulcich clan. But the idea here is that if you continue to only be available in 2 to 3 week chunks, any kind of development that is in your horizon is truncated, and it's frustrating. And at the tight end position, when it takes a lot of time and effort to improve skills, either via blocking or your utilization in catching passes, I think we can all agree that this is a concerning trend that we're seeing. My hopes are that because he's so young and because he will probably continue to be a part of the Sean Payton system moving forward, that's me from my lips to God's ears, is the idea that Greg Dulcich could continue to be a role player here for the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton seemed to be really interested in the young player as he came in and took over the team. But I've also heard that maybe possibly it was a Hackett experiment gone wrong. Where do you fall on Greg Dulcich right now? And then I'll run through the rest of the unspecified players for Sunday.
No, I think all you said was pretty valid, Bree. Greg Dulcich, extremely talented player. When the Broncos first drafted him, I don't know if you guys were following Let's Talk Broncos or anyone was during that. I was kind of disappointed. I didn't think the Broncos needed a player like him. I ended up watching the film of him at UCLA, and I was like, oh, I think I could get behind this Greg Dulcich guy. Come into last season, looks the part, looks really good. So extremely talented player. The issue here is, and you laid it out, the best ability is availability. Everyone says it. It's very true. And the reason why it's even more concerning in this aspect, Bree, it's always a damn hamstring. Every single time it's a hamstring. It's the same thing. We're 2 years in, and this guy's walking around with like 3 different hamstring injuries. So it's concerning. That's something that really is scary, and it makes me want to sell some of my Greg Dulcich stock there despite the talent. He's an awesome talent. It's just like there's been a lot of really good football players, but they haven't been able to show it. We were having a conversation about this in the DMs the other day because of injuries. These things start to pile up, and then maybe even he gets on the field at some point, and he's not the same guy. And I don't want to put that out in the air, but it's part of the game. It's something you have to evaluate when you're talking about the most physical sport ever in football.
I think that it's a little bit concerning also because of the type of injury. And you mentioned it, hamstrings suck. I hate them. Let's abolish them. The idea that hamstring injury is soft tissue, and I can hear Zach Seegers already, the phantom that was talking about the idea that those are such tricky injuries because even if they do heal up, even if you don't rush the player back and they feel good to go, the ability to re-aggravate those injuries, same with groin pulls and abdominals, anytime you're working with those soft tissues, they're just going to get irritated. It's the swelling and the inflammation that's in the body, and then there's just you tweak muscles all the time. Now imagine you've got tears in those muscles and in those different fibers, and you got an issue here. And so it's unfortunate, but I don't understand the idea where we're blaming Greg Dulcich for having said hamstring injuries. Like, I don't think that he wished to have been born and bred with bad hammies. And I think that it's just an idea that we're really starting to look at, like, what continuity was still remaining on the strength and endurance teams for the Denver Broncos. What can they do going forward to kind of change this reoccurring event in which we saw the tightness with Tim Patrick and his Achilles after suffering the ACL injury, what we've seen with Justin Simmons as he's working through that groin and hip and the leg issues. I don't know. It's just kind of concerning and it's frustrating, but injuries happen. This is a really violent sport. This is a sport that takes it really out of the most insane athletes I've ever seen partake in the game. 1 minute they're out on the field and they're fine, and the next you're not seeing them for the rest of the season. And I think that we talked a lot about it offline in our chats that the NFL has been plagued by injuries for a long time now. And we're seeing them ramp up to a way where, I mean, you see it on your fantasy teams where players you drafted thinking they were going to be stars and breakout stars of the season are not able to contribute because they've been just decimated by injury. And then on the human front, these are careers. These are people's lives that are now taken away because of some terrible freak accident. Do you what do you think is contributing to the excess of injuries? And Paul wants to know, this is a great question. Maybe Mario Vitanzi, we can hit him up and get an idea from him. Is altitude a thing with tissue injuries? I don't know how the human body works to that level, Paul. Anatomy, maybe I could pass 101, but I'm not really sure if altitude plays a role. And I will ask the man of the hour altitude adjustment and see if I can get an answer from him. And maybe we'll post it up. Maybe he can make a post of that over on Twitter.
Yeah, we need a new episode of altitude adjustment while we're at it, Bree. I need one. All
I
right,
need one.
Mario, where you at, bro?
Give it to me. Turtle says, make it stop hurting. For some reason, I bought tickets to the Cleveland game.
Yeah. Oh, God. Hey, Turtle. That's rough.
Turtle, we got to talk.
Oh, my God. We're talking about the two teams that made the bad quarterback trades. Woo. This is gonna be a fun one. Hey, okay, here. Can I give them some things to watch for? You get to watch the best defensive player in football that week, though, and that's Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, what he did, I rewatched the film. I watched Micah Parsons versus Trent Williams. Trent Williams is amazing. Locked him up. It was telling who the best defender in football was after watching Myles Garrett go against Trent Williams. Trent Williams has been the best tackle in the league for about a decade now. Myles Garrett was phenomenal. At least you're going to watch some really fun football players. Myles Garrett's going to go down as the first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done.
I love it. I think you had him ranked number 1 on your pass rushers list. Is that correct? At least presently?
Yes. Number 1, Mike, and number 2.
That's fair. I like it. I'm not against it. We should probably get into bold predictions. That's what this episode's all about. We're previewing, we're projecting, we're predicting. So if you have bold predictions for Sunday's matchup, please drop them in the chat. We'll highlight them. We'll talk about them. And we'll let you know whether or not we're going to take or leave these bets. I believe Zach Seegers had a really interesting one, but Joey, I'm going to have you go first while I grab his, and I'm going to flame his because he's not here to defend himself.
Me as well. I'm going to throw out so many false narratives when Zach's thing comes up. It's going to be out of control. Mine, though, Bree, is I mentioned it earlier. I'm thinking about players that could be traded and how I want them to have the ball a ton. That's something that I think is going to go out there. The most likely guy I think to be traded on this Broncos team is Jerry Jeudy. I think the Broncos feed him. Bree, I'm going 80 yards. I think the over/under is set at 40 something. I checked it earlier today. He's going to have 80 yards and a touchdown this next week. That's my bold prediction. Broncos feed him. They're going to get him the ball a ton, and he's going to have some plays. Sean Payton's going to have some plays up his bag just for Jerry Jeudy to get the ball and look productive. We talked about last week. He diminished his trade value a little bit. That was something I was kind of worried about after his little spat with Steve Smith. Now I am hoping that they can raise that back to right where it was. 80 yards and a touchdown. What do you think about that?
Well, it's good that most people are built like goldfishes and their brains don't retain much information for a long time. I've already forgotten about that. Honestly, I want everyone to forget about it because I want that trade value to go back up. But in all honesty, I kind of wanted to commend Jerry Jeudy because he has continue to make statements about what happened in a way that I think is beneficial, not only for himself, but his character, as he kind of, is at sometimes an unfair target for a lot of criticism. I can attest to it because I know that sometimes I can get very rooted in the idea that an imperfect opportunity to have a light shown on you can sometimes bring out a lot of it just gets ugly, right? And he continues to comment on it. It is what it is. I know who I am. I know what this team is. If they trade me away, I'm still going to be Jerry Jeudy. And honestly, I just wanted to speak highly of that because as down as I can get sometimes on Jerry Jeudy as a Denver Bronco, I would love to see him go to another team and be successful. I would love for him to stay in Denver and be successful. I just think that he's had a really tough and sore spot at it. And it's been frustrating probably for him more than anybody else. And I can almost guarantee that because as an NFL player, this is your livelihood. And as he comes up on a contract year, he's going to want to perform. I just want to make fun of Zach Seegers, who's in the chat right now, who definitely has somewhere very important to be and is here in the chat. I'm looking at you, LTB community. If you can't do it, if Zach Seegers can do it, anybody can. And leave a like and subscribe, please. Love the content, y'all. Keep grinding. Zach Seeger's coming from you. That means the world.
Bree, don't you think it's a little curious? Zach is commenting but couldn't enter the podcast today. I don't know. Just something I thought I'd
give us like 6 minutes of your time.
No, I mean, give me 30, bro. Priorities. I don't know if you remember signing up for this podcast about a year and a half ago, but I sure do. Back when it was 5 days a week. I don't know if you do. I definitely do. We even lowered the limit, Zach, continuing to miss podcasts. Can I speak on the Jerry Jeudy situation real quick? I want people to realize there's also a damn middle ground. It's become Bree, it's become very Drew Lock-like. That's what it kind of reminds me of on the timeline, where it's either this guy's the second coming of Jesus at wide receiver, or it's this guy's a monster on Halloween. Like Jerry Jeudy should be the costume everyone dresses up for on Halloween. Like he's just a monster of a human. And it's like there's probably some in between here where yes, he's not living up to his draft status, and let's all acknowledge that. It's something that he has not done. It's a fact. He hasn't. The guy was drafted to be a number one wide receiver, and he is not that. But he also isn't the worst player of all time. This is a guy that has come in the NFL, and you know how many players would want multiple 800-yard receiving seasons in their NFL career? There's the majority of them haven't. So there's middle ground is all I'm trying to say. It's always he's the worst, he's the best. Let's bring it together. Let's find that gray area, Bree. That's what I've been trying to say on this timeline, at least.
And I think that that's been received pretty well. From myself, no. I'm going to I have my biases. I know who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But I would like to keep the same energy, and I liked his post. Keep the same energy online as you would in person. And it's frustrating, but it's because you're bought into this team. And then Joe, you made a good point the other day about you want people to show you that they want to win. And Jerry Jeudy is probably trying to find what that means to him. I'm prefacing, but I think the moral of the story is nobody likes losing, especially competitive athletes. I mean, hell, if we play flag football, we don't want to lose either. And that's like the very bottom of the barrel, non-comparable. Nobody likes losing. And it does bring out kind of a contention and a instinctual ego response. Whether you think you're the most level-headed person in the world, you're going to have a response to losing and to feeling that over and over and over again. I'm sure this roster is quite done with it. And so a little bit of leeway, a little bit of what could be. And I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be just fine. At least that's what my hope is. You see a lot of players go through different eras of their careers. What I would love to see is a resurgence. And I would really like to 10 people watching who haven't liked are personally responsible if the Broncos lose on Sunday. Alex does YouTube. Your chats are hilarious. If you want to get in the chat and stick up for yourself, Let's Talk Broncos. Go ahead and search for it. It looks like Zach Seegers didn't catch the rest of our rants. He has disappeared from the chat. Good. We don't need you. But I will grab.
Let me tell you, it's a fire sale on Let's Talk Broncos. I'll trade Zach right now for a first-round pick.
Shit. Are you like scoping?
The only reason it's a first-round pick is because we're coming off our highest views on his salary cap video. It was a second, but see, this is what we have to do. Exactly what we did with Zach Seegers is what I need the Broncos to do with Jerry Jeudy.
Okay, yeah, ramp up the production and then ship them out of town. I got it. I like it. Although I think Zach Seegers could be worth 2 firsts if he was able to take the ingenuity to another pod. But I would want another star player in the swap. I don't think I just want to give up capital, or I just wouldn't want to give up a player for capital. I think it's got to be like a little 1-and-1 with a little sprinkle on top. So you think about which podcast we want to poach from, because honestly, I don't know. We're kind of sitting pretty at the top there. Rock coming in hot.
I'll take the cap relief getting rid of Zach. That's what
his contract is really top heavy. And honestly, if we were to stick through another year, we're putting ourselves into a predicament where we really can't survive. Rock said, trade Zach, trade Frankie, trade Mario. This is incredible, Joey Richards. We're the only 2 left standing. I don't know how that's supposed to go. USMC Sniper is already taking Zach's spot. So we've got a contender here who wants to get off the practice squad and get in on this action. Paul is going to make me snort. Does Zach mute issues lower his value?
Yes, but we're trying to work it out of him. I don't know if anyone's noticed in the last few pods. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard many of them. It's not existent to any trade partners out there.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. It doesn't exist on the scouting report, and it would be unfair to hold it against him at this point in time. I guarantee on Sunday or Monday, Zach will be muted once more. I got completely distracted, and Paul had a bold prediction that Justin Simmons will have an interception for a touchdown or a pick 6 and be traded to Philly because of it. Depressing. I was excited. Now I'm depressed. Paul, you're on timeout. But Joey, I know it's really hard to predict interceptions. It's really hard to predict pick 6s, but it can be done. Justin Simmons has been the leader on the defense for such a long time. He's come in clutch in the momentum swings that we've seen, especially when, he's healthy right now. I think he's still a little bit limited on the injury report this week. He has been limited in practice for that hip. If he plays, I think he'll put 100% in Justin Simmons, which is better than any player you're going to put in that position. So it's still going to be 80% of the best safety that you've seen out there. Would you be shocked if he got a pick 6?
I wouldn't be shocked if he got a pick 6, but I do have to take it just because it feels like, the defender might have a pick 6. A really good defender might have a pick 6 once every few years. So it's a tough thing to put a bet on. Paul, if you do believe in this, go run to your online sports betting thing and go put some money on it, man, because I bet you your odds are going to be very high. So yeah, I have to take the bet just because of how unlikely pick sixes are. But I mean, hey, I would be here for it. Justin Simmons is definitely the best player outside of Patrick Surtain on this defense right now. I would love it. And like you said, one of the best Broncos that's been a Bronco for a while now. Honestly, consistency.
Yeah, I would still consider him a face of the franchise and a face of the community for everything that he's done for the city of Denver. It sounds like I'm giving him his flowers, but God, I think we've said one positive thing about Justin Simmons every time we have a Let's Talk Broncos podcast, especially in the face of people who thought he was maybe falling off. And I hate that narrative. I think it's lazy. And you come at me, bro. I promise you, I'm going to get to Zach's bold prediction. I'm also fading that bet. But honestly, it makes me want to show up to the game just because now that it's been manifested into the universe, I think there's a good potential that it could happen. And if I'm not there to witness it, I would be pissed. Zach Seegers has a bold prediction that Jordan Love will have a passer rating of at least 107. Aaron Rodgers had a career passer rating versus Denver of 106, and Love hasn't topped 70 in any of the last 3 games. So Zach thinks that Jordan Love is going to have one hell of a game against the Denver Broncos, specifically the defense. Joey, taking or leaving the bet?
I'm taking the bet. I'll give you Zach's little rundown as to why right now. I'm just imagining it right now. It goes defense, blah, 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 blah. Really bad, blah, 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 blah. Vince Joseph, blah, 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 blah. And then he ends it with George Payton is the worst. And then I would be like,
if I could trade George Payton, I would.
So, one, I would like to say, Zach, I totally agree with you on that take on pretty much everything that he would have said if he were on this podcast. I just don't think that he does it because it's Jordan Love and Zach is just going a little too high. This defense is really, really bad. It's terrible. I just think that it's coming a little more consistent. Is it still the worst defense in the NFL? Quite possible. But hopefully the Broncos are able to shut it down just a little bit.
Your Zach Seegers rant was like spot on. The only bad thing was that you didn't start really hot off the bat, and I didn't have to unmute you manually.
I should have done that. Oh my God, I should have muted myself. That's what would have done it.
Samuel Castro is predicting that Nick Bonito has a strip sack, a sack, strip, fumble. All of these words you're throwing at me, Samuel Castro. It's twisted me up. But yes, Nick Bonito's been on fire. I think after what was potentially a letdown season last year, been hot off the edge. And it's been really exciting to watch because it looks like he's finally, if anything, exceeding where we thought his ceiling was. Joey, what's the potentiality here with Nick Bonito?
I like Nick Bonito. I do. People gave me a lot of heat because I said I don't think he's an every down edge player. I still don't. But guess what, guys? It's the NFL where pass rush is at a premium, and this guy is going to have a huge job. Even if he's not getting the most at snaps in the edge room, he could have a season where he has 12, 13, 14 sacks. He could have some of those seasons and stack those upon each other. He's a really good pass rusher. One that when he beats somebody quick, and he does that a lot, it's really hard because of how fast he is. And now that speed also translates. Let's say that he gets blocked up really well. Those hustle sacks is what they call them, where a defender kind of just falls into the quarterback. It's a hustle sack or a coverage sack. Nick Bonito's are felt so much more because he can be blocked up pretty good, but his closing speed is fantastic. So it's felt. I really like Nick Bonito. I think he has a role on this team for a very long time, as long as the Broncos keep him around. He's a good football player.
I couldn't reach my mouse because I was texting Zach Seegers because I need him to retweet the pod. Sorry about that. That was professional. I was on business. Yeah, I think that for a long time, he could be a big impact player here for the Broncos defense. But it is interesting that you got and received a lot of flack because I think that was a lot of the same of Broncos country that was being super critical about Nick Bonito last season. So you can't make everybody happy. And honestly, we've grown to really understand that plight. So, Joey, keep speaking and fighting the good fight. I wanted to highlight Rock's bold prediction here with McLaughlin 150 yards rushing because why not? Scary, but would be amazing. I think the Denver Broncos have failed to really crack that 100 mark for rushing yards, but it falls in line with my bold prediction that I think the Denver Broncos will have 2 rushing touchdowns on Sunday. And I think that's just the probability of where they'll want to push the ball, although it's in direct contention with Joey's idea that we're seeing a big Jerry Jeudy game on Sunday. So my rationale is that the establishing the run hasn't been the strong suit for the Denver Broncos in a couple of seasons. I think the idea is there, the hope is there, the talent is there because you have Samaje Perine, Jaleel McLaughlin, and obviously Javonte Williams. But Javonte Williams has been slow to return to form. Or I think it might be a utilization problem from Sean Payton because there's some questionable play calling going on. But the idea here is that they'll somehow be able to establish it against the Packers' inconsistent defense, and that there will be some gaps that they're able to take advantage of. Joey, how would you feel about 2 rushing touchdowns from the Denver Broncos? Would you take or leave that bet?
I kind of like it. I kind of like 2 rushing touchdowns, Brie. Is this your bet?
This is my bet.
Okay, 2 rushing touchdowns. One thing the Broncos, so 150 yards is a lot for Jaleel McLaughlin. I'll answer that one first. And Brie, you did say it well. They haven't done a good job of setting it up, yet it's been super efficient. The Broncos, just from an efficiency-wise, are one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. They just go away from it too fast. And why is that? Because they're always playing from behind. Thank you, Vance Joseph, blah, 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 George Payton, blah, blah, blah. Again. So yeah, it's that. That's the big issue there. And I would hope that if the Broncos stuck to the ground, that is something that's possible for Jaleel McLaughlin. As far as the 2 rushing touchdowns go, I have to bet against it just because I don't know how many opportunities the Broncos are going to have at the end zone. And I did tell you that I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be getting one of them. So if I take 2 rushing touchdowns, how many touchdowns do I think the Broncos are going to score? So I'm going to take you up on your bet, although that's a really good one. I don't hate that at all.
What if I told you that I think one of them will be a take it to the house type of touchdown where McLaughlin finds a hole and just absolutely obliterates any chance of the defense slowing him down? And I'm talking like I don't know, 40+ yarder. I just think the propensity to be able to highlight the deficiencies on this Packers defense are just a little high. And I think that's why it's going to be pretty remarkable run game from the Broncos because they'll have to lean into it. And you're right. If they're playing from behind, this changes things entirely. But for God's sake, if the offense is going to be more efficient, maybe they can score some points. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there as something that could happen. Jordan Davis says Baron Browning sacks Love twice. 2 sacks for Baron Browning. We'd love to see it. Big fans of Browning here on Let's Talk Broncos. Joey, I know that most of the edge room itself has been a rotational bag of tricks here, but Baron Browning coming back and being available changes kind of the idea of what you want to see from that group. What do you think is the chance of this happening? Would you take or leave that bet?
I am definitely taking this bet. Baron Browning's first game back. I don't see it happening. But Jordan Davis, one, I love your name. You're named after one of my favorite college football players and now Philadelphia Eagle, Jordan Davis, nose tackle. Great name.
Maybe it is Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis from Georgia. Thank you for entering the chat, man. I'm a huge fan. No, but I love Baron Browning, man. One thing I do love is Baron Browning. He is – he's like Dulcich in a way, Bree, where we were having the conversation earlier about the injuries, and that is so concerning. But out of the talent Baron Browning has is so it's awesome, and I hope everyone kind of realizes that. He really didn't play much edge in college. He got snaps at edge, didn't play a lot of it though, and it came to the NFL and last year looked like and stepped in like he was a second round edge player. That's what he looked like to me. And he has so much more room to grow at the position. He is a freak athlete, already has some nuances to his game. And I hope he can stay healthy, because if there is one guy in this pass rush room that I think can be an edge one or an edge two, it's going to be Baron Browning. That could be a building block for your defense. So I really hope he stays healthy, man.
I love that Turbo Duran came in like a tornado. I'm a Raiders fan. Go Raiders. Go Jimmy G. Max Crosby is going to eat on Sunday. Turbolicious out. Thanks, man. Thanks for dropping by. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and do so. You never have to watch another video, but we would appreciate the head count. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah. When Baron Browning switched it up a little bit at position, I think a lot of Broncos country was like, well, that's never been done before. Why would we do that? And then Baron Browning was the second coming of Christ, or Von Miller, however you want to look at it. So listen, middle ground. Joey was talking about it earlier. If we could kind of just pick the middle of the road and travel down that for a while and see how Baron Browning comes back from injury, I think we'll have a better idea of what he's going to look like in the future. But let's just calm down a little bit. If we see 2 sacks out of Baron Browning, I'm going to be happy about it. And listen, I'm all about manifestation. So I'm going to, I want to see that happen. So yeah,
okay.
Let's see Baron Browning 2 sacks. I think that there's a high possibility. There's a non-zero chance. Let's go with it. We're going to get into score predictions. We've done our bold predictions. Continue to drop them in the chat if you want. But Joey, I want you to let me have it. What do you think the score is going to be to this game? Who wins? And let's give Broncos country something to think about. Ooh, my God. Wait, Dante threw in a bold prediction. Yeah. Russ throws 3 interceptions and Stidham makes his debut. Jesus Christ, Dante. I didn't mean implode the chat. Now we're on the implode meter, because if this happens, you gotta shut it down.
Yeah, right. Okay, that would scare me. I hope. I don't want to see Stidham play football. I don't want to see it. Like, at least with Brett Rippon, I had like some sort of rooting interest there, where it was like, ooh, I hope Brett Rippon does good. Seems like a really good guy. I don't know a damn thing about Jarrett Stidham. I don't know. I don't care. Other than, hey, he's a great tanking option. Fantastic tanking option. If the Broncos are trying to lose game, put him in.
You got to stop saying that word. The more you say that word, it's like you're saying moist, and you're offending people, and they're getting upset. They hate it. You just can't say the word tank. Listen, how else would you describe a cake that is flavorful and not dry? You're going to say moist. I'm sorry. And if that makes you click out of this video, grow up. Score prediction.
Okay, I'm going 28-23 Packers. That's what I'm going with. Go Pack, go. Broncos are tanking. I'll say it again. Tanking. And I think they lose. I hope Jerry Jeudy has a big game. I hope the young guys look good. And guys, that's kind of what I want my end note to be, is this is what we need to be looking out for. I know it's tough. I know you have to swallow a pill of pride while doing this. I am watching the young guys, and that's what I'm determining how good the Broncos are playing. Oh, what's Marvin Mims doing out there? Oh, Baron, Nick Benito. I'm looking at these type of guys, looking at the future Broncos, and that's my score. The score means nothing to me anymore.
I'm going to predict an ugly one, and like a 2017 or 2019 affair where the Packers pull it off, and I walk home and I want to vomit. Cal says 10-5. Cal was messing around the other day and gave us like a 7-3 or a 7-2, 5-2. I don't know, but at multiple times at the last game, that was the score. That was the score during the quarter. And I was like, if nobody scores, Cal wins again. And it was like a very unsettling vibe for me, because he was just predicting everything that was happening. Samuel Castro says 31-27 Broncos win. Samuel, I really commend that your positivity continues to stick like this. So
Alex, really you've been talking about the score we really need to keep track of, and that's what somebody in here hasn't liked the stream. Thank you for pointing that out, Alex.
I'm disappointed in you. I think that you need to go to your room and think about what you've done. It's abhorrent that you would choose not to like this stream. Listen, I'm here on a Friday night doing this for y'all. I don't care, but appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. The view still counts. Paul says 76 Packers. Gee, Paul, what are you doing?
7-6 Packers. This would be depressing. This is the worst type of loss. This one in cows. Right here. This is exactly what I don't want to see. No, you're not on the tanking train with me. Never mind. We'll throw that out.
Sniper has a prediction of 27-20. Packers is my prediction. A lot of people are touting this as the Broncos' probably last chance to win a game. I think the Patriots could be a good one. I just think that there's a very weird, ethereal feeling in Broncos country right now of what the rest of the season is going to look like. Listen, I thought about it today as I was like, are we halfway through the season? I was like, I was like trying to conceptualize, like, it feels like it's week 14 to me in my brain, in my head. There's still a lot of season to go, but there's a lot of tough games coming up. Like, I could see the Bills just staring pinholes through me. That laser Buffalo Bill logo is looking really scary right now. And I just can't see it. Alex shares the same sentiment. I'm a Broncos hater and I don't want to see 7-6. Nobody wants to see 7-6. And honestly, if that's what's happening, many TVs are just turning off. I don't think the NFL would even allow that to be a possibility, especially with two defenses that can't quite figure it out. So it would just be Thursday night football-esque if you were to see a 7-6 game. Dante has been thinking hard on his prediction, 21-23 Packers. Broncos lose by last second field goal. And we all cry yet again. Some tears of joy at Joey because Joey wants the team to tank. You're moistly welcome. Joey, I want you to give a quick pitch on why people should follow Let's Talk Broncos.
Yeah, everyone follow Let's Talk Broncos. We're the only YouTube that's giving you daily Broncos content nowadays. That's the main reason why. And then secondly, because we traded Zach Seegers. The worst part is finally off the show. We're rebuilding. And guys, I'm just joking. Zach is going to be here. Zach's the best. I love him to death.
I literally almost ended the show before you got an apology off, and I'm really upset about
it. But I love him to death. Zach's my guy. But yeah, that's all, guys. Yeah, make sure you're following. Like, subscribe. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Make sure you're going to check out Frankie's stuff. Bree, give your little elevator pitch.
I'm on the show sometimes, mostly, unless I am not, and therefore you should watch. Cal said, pick an album that best represents the game after. The game after what?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. What's the most anxious album I can think of?
You ever heard just like loud noises that sound like rent got put through a wood chipper?
Construction.
Just the white noise, but it's just a crane operating for a really long time. Wolfgang said, I'm hoping that LaFleur pulls a McDaniel on us and pops a 70. I can't. I'm out. Goodbye.